Yes.
Excellent. You sure? All right, here we go. Here calls the meeting to order. If everyone can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. We're going to we do not have anyone. All right. And then our fun part will be for me is our good news. All right, so we got a couple throwbacks. We can skip right through because we actually got the conveniently, or we have throwbacks from Lisa and Tom that were at the same from 2 years ago. So if you scroll ahead here to Lisa's updated one. Maybe? All right, here we go. So we have Lisa Robinson, special education teacher for BHS. She would like to wish congratulations to the members and contestants of Mr. Batavia. This year, Mr. Batavia raised $5,870. Since 2013, $54,383 have been raised. This year's donations went to the Ricky Palmero Foundation, Habitat for Humanity, and the Dylan Hale Memorial Scholarship. And then we do have Tom, who on March 17th, BHS Model UN Club sent 9 delegates to the International Institute of Buffalo Model UN Conference at SUNY at Buffalo. These students collaborated and negotiated with over 800 other students from 47 area school districts in an effort to solve a variety of global issues. We have our assistant principal, Ms. Cameron from BMS. Our secretary, Heather Licata, recently joined the team and has been doing a phenomenal job. She creates a welcoming and supportive environment for students who come into the office. She handles the constant flow of phone calls with professionalism and care. She's an excellent multitasker, keeps everything running smoothly, even during the busiest times of the day. Her organization, positive attitude, and willingness to jump in whenever needed has already made a big difference. She has been a tremendous help to me and a real asset to our school community. We're very fortunate to have her on our team. And since we have our special ed director here, we're also going to acknowledge one of our special ed teachers. If you go back up one, yes. She'd also like to recognize Emma Eastridge, one of our special education teachers, for the outstanding work she's doing with our students. Emma leads a 12-1-1 classroom and consistently demonstrates the patience, empathy, and professionalism that are so important in supporting our most valuable learners, or vulnerable learners, excuse me. She has built strong, trusting relationships with her students and maintains a well-managed, structured classroom environment that allows them to feel safe and successful. All right, so now we'll go ahead to a number of other things there. We have Mrs. Nataro, our principal at Jackson. We'd like to recognize Alyssa Weinman. Alyssa is very flexible and supported students in need. She is always willing to help and support where she is needed. Thank you for all you do. We truly appreciate you. Mr. Metler, our SEL teacher at BHS. Mrs. Warner, multiple students have told me she helped them catch up on work owed or missed during the third quarter. One student said she did it without yelling at me or getting frustrated. She just helped me. So thank you for that, Mrs. Warren. And we also have for the high school, Mr. Metler, like at the club meeting, a student said, Mrs. Geithner is so awesome. She makes me love science. Because of her, I want to grow up and work in the field of biology. Thank you for your enthusiasm. And those are also posted on our site as well for you to take a look at. All right, so let's get into some presentations here. Our first presentation is for our international trip proposal.
Hi, I'm Janine Scanio, and I lead the travel club here at Batavia High School. And we just got back, like a week ago, from our third international trip. We actually went to 5 different countries. We went to Germany, Austria, Liechtenstein, Switzerland, and to France. And the kids had an absolutely great time, and it's so nice to see the kids grow on these trips. Like some of the kids that were freshmen and were maybe a little immature at the beginning, by the end, they understood how they had to behave and what to do, and they were really good, and they were working really well with the older kids. And a couple of the kids who were very shy and didn't really talk to anybody at the beginning, by the end, were friends with everyone. And one of the kids, like, it made me feel so good, because at the end, we had a meeting with the tour director, and went over things, and she said, is there anything anybody would like to add? And he was the first kid with his hand up, and he's like, I just wanna say what a great trip this was, and how much I learned, and how much I enjoyed it. And for him to speak up in front of our school of kids and the other school that we were with was like a real growing experience for him. So these trips teach so much more than kids can even learn in a classroom. And so I had some of the kids who I knew who were interested in traveling, and I brought them in and I gave them 3 different options for trips for next year. And overwhelmingly, they picked Japan. So Japanese culture is really big right now, even in American culture, with like Pokemon and different foods and songs and all this stuff. So if you want to know more about Japan, you can talk to Mr. Smith, because he's been there twice, and he shared that with me, how much he liked it. And so that is one country I've never been to. I've been to at least 21 different countries, but I've never been anywhere in Asia, so this will be a learning experience for me as well. This is a sample itinerary. We fly into Tokyo, the Fuji, I don't even know how to pronounce these names, so I'll just let you kind of read them, and the Kansai region. And then we will be there for a total of 9 days. And if you want to go to the next one. So round trip, the student price is $5,519, which is a lot of money. However, I was able to lock this price in before the gas prices went up and before airline prices went up. And so at that time, we didn't know that there would be a war and that all these things would go up. But I had said, could you wait until we get back from this trip, and can you hold that price? And they said yes. But this price is only good until May 1st. So if you approve that we can do this trip, I'm having a meeting on Thursday with families, and I'm gonna tell them, if you wanna sign up right away. They said if we waited till fall, nobody would be able to afford it, because the prices are going up so much, so they wouldn't be able to afford it. But within that, it includes your round trip airfare, all your hotels, breakfast and dinner every day, full-time tour director that stays with us for the entire time, rides with us on the bus, stays with us at the hotels, local guides in each of the different areas. There's a specialized local guide that gives us information, and you guys would have been so proud of the kids this year. We would quiz them on the bus, so when we would be driving from country to country, we would like quiz the kids, and they knew all the answers. They knew there's 25,000 different castles in just the country of Austria, which is the size of South Carolina. But all the questions were like, wow, they're really paying attention, they're really learning this. So it was really fantastic. Transportation, a lot of times we have like those coach buses. In Japan, we'll also be taking the bullet train. So they have these super fast bullet trains that we'll be taking as well. Travel insurance is included in the price. And then all the kids get their EF backpack that they wear around and bring all of their things in. So the second choice option that the kids picked was for Scandinavia. So I would also like to see if you would approve our trip for 2028 as well as 2027, because I know this one for Japan, I already have 42 kids that are very interested in this trip who whose parents have contacted me, and that trip is gonna fill hopefully before May 1st. But then I won't have any trip for other people to go on, like freshmen for next year. So if we could approve a trip, I wouldn't do it right away at the beginning of the year, but partway into the year, then I would be able to offer another trip, and then those kids would have like over 1.5 years to pay for the trip, so that their payments would be less. So that would be the capitals of Scandinavia. So, and it would fly into Oslo, then down to Copenhagen, Stockholm, and then if we did the extension, we could go to Helsinki and Tallinn as well. So that would be a trip for 2028, but the trip for 2027 would be June of 2027. We would leave 2 days after graduation, so right after the kids graduate. So I had the kids vote on when they would like to go, whether they wanted to go spring break like we did this year or in the summer. And the kids said, well, a lot of us have family things that we do over spring break, so we would rather go in the summer. So one thing that's hard for me is if we do it in the middle of the summer and I haven't seen the kids since the end of school. So I said, how about this? What if we did it right after graduation? So that I've just seen you, we've just had our departure meetings, and then 2 days later we can leave. So that seemed like a really good time for all of the kids. So for the 2027 trip, that would be leaving June 28th of 2027. And I don't know the exact dates for 2028, but it would also probably be right at the end of the school year unless kids voted that they would rather go over Easter break. So do you guys have any questions for me? All right.
So I want to thank you, Janine. You've done a great job with this over the years. I'll be honest with you, I get nervous when I have kids traveling anywhere, but especially overseas. And the only nervousness I had this time was, am I going to get enough pictures to post on Facebook? So you did a great job with it. And the kids, I know several of the kids that went, and they had a great time. So.
Yeah.
I agree. Ava, she booked a trip to Scotland in May. I was like, darn that travel club. Now she wants to travel.
Now she
all
wants
the
to travel all
time.
over. That's the same thing that happened to my own children too, so yeah.
But it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate the Scandinavian trip being approximately the same cost as the Japan trip?
Yeah, I think it should be around that same amount, yeah. And I can't say for sure because with
Right.
all the prices going up and everything, so I'm hoping that prices will come down, you know, late before I book that trip. And so then it might be a little bit less than that, but we'll see. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yes.
Did she leave?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
I
Carla,
mean, she was quick.
so Carla, can you see if she's still out there? I had a quick question. Huh?
Are you gonna ask if she should take an administrator?
I'm just a little worried about approving a trip all the way to 2028. What are your guys' thoughts on that? To approve that early now?
Why was your hesitation?
Can it be a conditional approval?
Yeah, I mean, would she be,
Well, you know, we always have the, hi Janine.
Hi.
I'm sorry, Janine.
I heard there was maybe another question.
Yes, so I'll be honest, I'm a little hesitant on approving something for 2028 that far in
Okay.
advance, without having a whole lot of details on it yet. I mean, especially with everything that's going on, I'm completely comfortable with the 2027 one. She's got 42 people interested in that already. With 2028, who knows? I mean, it's a great opportunity for the students. It just seems just a little bit too far in advance for me. Is it, any thoughts on that, or?
Is it possible, like, we just like kind of like pre-approve it until, just because of, I know pricing,
What I might
I
suggest,
don't know about that.
Well, you don't have any of the details for the pricing now. You're just asking.
I'm not gonna actually set it up right now, but I know that sometimes, so like I was supposed to come a month ago, but then they were like, hey, can we bump you a month because we're really busy? So I just thought like, as long as I was here, I could maybe get two approved just for your time. You know, I don't mind coming back in the fall to
So-
get another one approved, but I just thought that if we did this, then I wouldn't need to come back in front of you again for another one, but
my
I don't mind
suggestion
doing
might
that.
be, might be to have the board formally approve the trip to Japan, and then maybe just get some head nods for the possible June of 2028 trip. And if they have any questions, you can ask their questions. If they say, yeah, sounds fine, and then come back later on, maybe get the more formal yes votes that works for the board.
I mean, even if you can't come in, we can still get it on the agenda to approve for you.
Oh, okay,
You know, for
yeah,
that.
sure.
I just, again, it's so far in advance, and with everything going on, this trip can come back, we'll approve it, but if this trip's come back at, $10,000-$12,000, double the amount of cost.
I wouldn't do it if it was that much, to be honest, because I wouldn't want to do that to families. Like,
So are you guys, would you guys be okay with approving tonight the 27 one and then giving, I guess, an informal to bring us the details for that, even if we can't get you physically in here?
Yeah,
but
I mean,
we
she
can
did
get-
quote me a price for that one because when I presented it to the kids, I had a price, but it was a 2028 price, not a, or I'm sorry, a 2027 price, not a 2028 price. But, if that's all right with you, like in the fall, I can just have her put on the agenda that we want it approved, and then I don't need to come in and talk to you about it again.
Fall still might be too soon for you.
Well, I mean, we're in April right now, and we're looking at a trip 2 years down the road.
I think they did it for fundraising, so the kids could have more time to raise funds.
Is that your intention?
Well, that's the thing, if we could set it up, like sometime in the fall, like October, November, then families have longer to pay off the trip, so they have smaller monthly payments if you have it set up earlier.
Will you have pricing for it then?
We would, yeah.
What's the financial obligation if the kids put down a down payment? Is that non-refundable? Or is it?
So, there's a $100 down payment that everybody puts down. For 7 days, you can get your full money back. So if you are, like, have buyer's remorse and you're like, oh, it seemed like a good idea, but now I don't want you. In 7 days, you can get that $100 back. After that, you can't get the 100 back, but because of the travel insurance, and the reason they do travel insurance now, pretty much ever since COVID, they've done that, but also Europe now has requirements that you need to show proof of travel insurance when you get there, so they could ask you for that when you show your passport. So all our students had to have a thing saying that they had travel insurance. So with your travel insurance, you can get your money back if something comes up and you get sick, you break your leg, you move away, something happens, then you can get your money refunded.
So I think the other question might be if we postpone this approval till like later next school year, that probably wouldn't be a reason. If the board says yes and then change their mind because something happens, that probably wouldn't be a reason for the kids to get their money back that they've already paid, right?
No, it could be a reason.
Could be a reason.
Yeah, because I know that happened with, they just changed the location. There was, I'm trying to remember the year, it was like
Yeah, I recall something like that.
2017, I think. I did a trip when I was at a previous school, and we went to Italy, but the school that was supposed to go with us was from New York City. And we got there, and there was no other school, and they're like, oh, they're bored at the last minute, wouldn't approve any travel to Europe, and so they went to Costa Rica instead. So they just
Okay.
switched
So
their
there's an
trip.
option.
But so if the school district said, we're gonna halt travel right now, they could get their money back, and that would be a legitimate reason to do that,
Okay.
yeah.
So if you don't mind, and again, the rest of the board chime in, but I would like to just see it back on the agenda a little bit down once you get details finalized for that before we give it a formal approval.
Okay, do we look good for Japan?
Yeah.
Japan one looks good, all right. And then, yeah, so in the fall, I'll just submit something for approval with the price and all of that before I put that out to any families.
Where you
Alright.
have the 42 for Japan, is there like a max or minimum that you have a guideline for in your head?
So, usually every year when we go, we're always with another school. I've had a couple of times when I wasn't, but the kids always get along with the other schools, they become friends with the kids at the other schools. This year, however, the other school, in the end, our kids became friends with some of those kids, but the other teacher, I don't know, it wasn't the best situation with the other school. She wasn't too nice to our kids at first, and there's a little bit of an issue. So I'm like, if you can get 40 students, you don't have to be with another school. But since this is my 10th tour, I'm like a gold member status, so I only need 30 students. So if I can get 30 students, we don't have to get matched up with another school, and it can be a Batavia-only trip. So I want to get at least 30 so that we can have a Batavia-only trip.
But if all of them wanted to go, they could.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I don't want to put a limit on it, because if there are kids that want to go, and it's a great opportunity, I don't want to limit it, so.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, I started to leave and I wasn't finished yet. Any other questions?
Sounds good. Thank
Okay,
you
that
for coming
sounds
back
great.
in.
Thank you.
So we're gonna do the vote on that now for the trip for the June Japan trip. So I need a motion to approve that.
So approved.
by Jen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Corinne. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that's approved. All right, and if you want to make a note for that.
Yep.
Even if she can't make it in for the presentation, just have it on the agenda, so I think all of us would know. All right, next up, we have Kelly Marciano, our Director of Special Ed, to give us an update on that.
All right. A little handout for everyone. You're welcome. Here you go. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll start just with introductions. Again, Kelly Marciano, Director of Special Education.
I'm Melissa Elliott, the Assistant Director of Special Education.
Sorry. All right, first, it was great to hear all the good news. So many of those people were special education teachers or special education support staff, so thank you for acknowledging all of them. All right, so first thing that I'm just gonna go over is where our current numbers are. So we send our data up to the state every year. Our data is always kind of a year behind of what we're looking at. So last year, our students, we had 15% of students with disabilities, both in Batavia, so we had 310 total students, and then in the region, we also saw that increase from the year before, 14% up to 15% across the board. So again, similar trends that we saw last year to this year is that we're still seeing an increase in that mental health need, higher level of classification of other health impairment. We're also seeing more students classified with an emotional disability, and seeing that that level of need of mental health is really out there. More behavior challenges, and needing more specialized programs for our students. We're also starting to see a larger gap with our students coming to us also that have a more of an academic gap than we've seen in the past too. So we're also seeing students needing more of that academic-based self-contained classroom. We watch this number. We don't want to go over 15%. We want to stay around that 15% as close as possible, but then also looking at what our least restrictive classification rate is as well. So right now we have about 30% of our students who are in a more specialized program. We really want to get somewhere between 15 and 20 is what the state looks at. So we are on the trend of seeing higher level of need, needing more specialized supports, but then how do we come back and talk about getting them in their least restrictive environment, which is typically more with gen ed peers as much as possible. So that's the numbers that we're constantly looking at. I'm going to let Allie kind of talk about her role. Before she does, I just want to thank all of you for approving this role this year. It's been a tremendous support having Allie helping me this year. She's learned a lot, so she'll go over those pieces with her, but we definitely are in a much better place this year than we've been the last 4 years since I've been here. So I appreciate all of your support with that, and I'll let you take it away.
Right, so my responsibilities include the CSE chairperson training, so now I can run the CSE and 504 meetings. I also process all of the new referrals and transfer students and coordinate those services. I also support the MTSS teams in the different buildings, mostly at Robert Morris and Jackson at this time. I also lead professional learning teams, and I've developed an IEP guide that I'll talk a little bit more about later. And then one thing that's not on there is that I've been conducting teacher observations, which is one of my favorite things of the job because I love to see all the hard work that our teachers are doing, and especially our related service providers, because that's something that I didn't get to see when I was teaching.
What Allie didn't say though is that she's also really helped us streamline a lot of our processes, and we'll show an example of some of the work that she's done as well later on. But her technological side is beyond anyone. I thought I used to be techie, but nothing compared to her, so that's been a huge support for us. This year we've had the following goals. So we had professional learning teams for the self-contained classrooms. We continued our work with related services this year, but really kind of put a focus on self-contained, so our 611 and our 1211 classrooms. We're working on building programming with current staffing and supports, consistency and clarity around the IEP development and writing, and then we've had a couple of targeted skills groups that are mandated by the state for us to take part in, and we'll talk about each of those individually. And this year, our PLTs, our professional learning teams, have been meeting monthly. So typical professional learning community, we want them meeting on a cycle. but because they're in different buildings, we've been able to pull them together monthly, which is more than they've been able to in the past. We're still trying to figure out that sweet spot though to get them in together more often. The IEP guide, Allie will talk about in a little bit, and we continue to work a lot with the principals, creating more succinct continuum throughout the entire district.
Right, so this slide shows how our self-contained teams and related service providers are engaging in professional learning teams. The 12-1-1 classrooms, both the academic and life skills, started with a focus on reading and trying to align the reading instruction across the grade levels. The 6-1-1 classroom, which is a behavior classroom, focused on different behaviors and explicitly teaching those behavioral skills. Now we have combined the life skills classroom and the behavioral classroom to learn about Unique, which is a digital platform that will help with streamlining that curriculum across the different grade levels, especially in the classrooms that are multi-age. There's more than one grade level in each classroom. And then our related service providers, so that's speech, PT, and OT, they have aligned their work by clearly defining the entry and exit criteria for services, strengthening communication with families, and they've created service-specific handbooks to ensure consistency.
All right, so the handouts that we passed out makes the continuum slide bigger for you because it's very hard to see on the PowerPoint. So when you look at that, there's two different versions. There's our current continuum, which has 25, 26 at the top. And what you see that's yellow, those are what we were able to adjust or add to our programming for this school year. So one thing that we did change at Robert Morris last school year into this one was reducing our integrated classroom at the preschool level, and we created a 12-1-1. The reason we did that was due to overall costs of that one classroom that was integrated, because we were paying the cost for a full-time general education teacher and a special education teacher. By going to a 12-1-1 model, we were able to reduce that to one teacher instead. And then also seeing the regional need of what our students needed, 12-1-1 seemed to align better. We were able to focus more on academics for that cohort. At Jackson, we had a 6-1-1 behavior classroom that we switched to an 8-1-3 this year. So 8 students, 1 teacher, 3 aides in the classroom supporting. And the reason we made that change is we were seeing less at that level, the emotional disability type of students, maybe physical aggression, and we're seeing more of a profile that was working more on social pragmatic and had more of that autism-based classification. So we changed that to support that student need. And then in November, we had made a proposal to Mr. Smith about opening a 6-1-2 classroom because we had these students who were coming in that were not in early intervention, were not in the CPSE process, that came in to register beginning September, mid-September, that had a more significant need than what we could accommodate within our current classifications, our current settings. And we found that that would be cheaper for us in the long run to have those students within our district. So again, I appreciate all of your support in opening that classroom. We've been able to support 5 to 6 students consistently in that classroom, and we're seeing huge growth out of all of them. So some of them next year will actually transition to a 12-1-1, some will need that level of support still. And our 8-1-2, which I'll talk about in a minute, but we're seeing with them having that level of support now that they've been able to really grow. And then in the high school this year, we were able to add a 12-1-1, so a self-contained setting, so 12 students, 1 teacher, 1 aide in both ELA and algebra. And we had to co-seat that class this year, so meaning our 9th graders and 10th graders were together in that class. We're seeing that's a bit of a struggle, so we have some plans for next year, but we were able to service all of those students at max number of 12 students right now who have been in there all year long. At 10th grade, we added the integrated co-teaching model, so different between consultant teacher. Consultant teacher comes in, supports the student, may only be there for a part of a period, really modifying just the materials, whether it's making sure that they have their tests read to them, really making sure that what's on their IEP is supported in the classroom. An integrated co-teacher is truly team teaching with this general education teacher. They may be doing smaller groups, they may be pulling students to focus just on the essential skills and standards versus giving them the modifications and accommodations that they need. So we were able to roll that up to 10th grade, so that was this year. then for next year, you can see the yellow, again, we're able to make some adjustments based on our needs. So we are reducing for the preschool, removing the 12-1-1. We are looking at doing more half-day programs for our students, again, based on the need and then also the cost of the program. At kindergarten, we're going to change that 6-1-2 to an 8-1-2 to cover the kindergarten and first graders that need that level of support. Similar profile, low cognitive scores, low communication needs. The teacher and I have talked about, can we handle 8 students with that type of profile? And yes, with the need of kindergarten and first grade, instead of currently it's first and second graders, so a little bit different. When we look down at the middle school, we're able to shift our models as well from going from an enrichment model, which before was students going to meet with their special education teachers, working on homework, working on classwork, but what they ended up doing is a lot of reteaching and pre-teaching, which is truly the resource room model. So we're switching to really put that on the IEP so that we're showing exactly what the students are getting. A couple of reasons for that switch too, that we're doing all the way from middle school to high school, is really one, to meet the needs of the students, to really show the services that they're getting. Resource room counts as time out of the regular education classroom, which we need that for state reporting, where enrichment was not getting caught in our state reporting. And then also our students can be transient at times, so when they move to another district, we want to make sure that they're getting that level of support as well if they were to leave us. At 6th grade, with the reconfiguration, we're able to have one of our special education teachers who previously taught a 12-1-1 stay and teach a 6-1-1, which is going to help our behavior concerns. So we have a group of 5 or 6 students slotted for that class right now. And then at 9th grade, we're rolling up self-contained. We'll have a true 9th grade self-contained for ELA, math, and social studies. And then as you see, we go up each year. So 9th and 10th grade will have the same level of supports. 11th grade, we're adding in the integrated co-teaching and resource room, and then 12th grade to resource room.
This is the IEP guide that I created that we've discussed. So this was to support consistent IEP writing across buildings and grade levels. There are different tabs for different things, such as the timelines of when things are due and when certain things need to be done before the annual review. The meeting expectations, the guide and resources to writing the IEP, a pre-CSE meeting checklist, the different programs and the minutes and the frequency of each program, the testing accommodations, and then some other resources and supports. So one of the key focuses was to clarify the testing accommodations, specifically identifying student profiles and who qualifies for each type of accommodation, so that accommodations are intentionally aligned to student needs.
All right, so this year we engaged in a targeted skills group led by some folks from, not from our BCSD, but from the, they're called the RCS task. So they kind of work through the state. They're kind of like the next funnel down. So the state says you need to work on this area. They come in and support us through professional development, through meetings. So the first one we had was New York State Alternative Assessment Group. So those are our students who do not take a New York State 3 through 8 assessment or a Regents, and that they graduate with a certificate, not a diploma. So there's a lot of criteria that you have to go through on determining if a student does qualify for that. And that's the last handout that I have for you, is the decision-making guide. So we had to participate because our percentage in the area of science, so students can be alternatively assessed in ELA, math, and science. In science was at 2.95%. The state wants us to be at 1%, but if you're above 2.5%, that's when you have to engage in the targeted skills group. So with us having that target in science, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is the students don't have to take science every year. They only take it twice within their academic career of 3 through 12th grade. It's ELA and math that's every year, so we have a larger population at that point. So when you look at the individuals, how many for science, you're really looking at 10-ish students, but that's going to increase our rate because we have a bigger cohort in 8th grade taking that exam. So one thing that we looked at is overall our practices of how are we identifying students to be alternatively assessed, what are the resources we're giving parents. So the activities that we have to do is a list with BCSD representation. One of them was using the decision-making tool, which I handed out to you. And then we're also providing parents a resource, so that's what this little pamphlet is here. There's a parent guide that's from New York State. We have to use New York State approved resources that explains to the parents in a bit of more user-friendly terms than what their regulations say, of what does it truly mean when your student is alternatively assessed, what's the difference between a certificate and a diploma, and how does that impact them post-secondary. So we've been working a lot on communicating that with our families, and then we're also engaging with professional development for our staff so that they're truly understanding when we're making these recommendations of our third graders, our fourth graders, how that can impact them once they're 22 and they exit us. And then we're also working on adding in training for our families with the support of, they're called the FACE Center, right, FACE? Yes, the acronym, I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but they work with all of the resources to get them to our parents.
We are also a part of a targeted skills group for literacy, which we joined based on the 2023-2024 grades 4 and 8 ELA state assessment data. So the purpose of this work is to improve reading outcomes for students with disabilities through explicit, systematic instruction and targeted reteaching. In order to do this, we created 2 task force teams. One of them we call Test Red. So the Test Red group is currently examining students who get the accommodation of having their test read aloud to them, but they continue to struggle. So they're focusing on strengthening instruction around understanding texts and answering questions using evidence. And then we also have our foundational skills task force group, which is focusing on grades K through 2, and they're identifying essential early literacy skills and aligning them vertically across the different grade levels. So overall, our outcome that we want is to have consistent instruction that improves the foundational skills, fluency, and comprehension.
And this group too really has evolved over time. So we started off with meeting a group of us of special education teachers, administrators, Dr. Corey's part of that, and some principals. And we've been able with these 2 task force to bring in also the reading teachers, the coaches, and so it's really a multidisciplinary approach to reading. So it's not just this is the special education teacher's domain, you're working on this, and reading over here, we're really starting to collaborate together, which I think long-term is gonna show great growth for our students. All right, and our third one is State Performance Plan 13. So this is looking at one of the data points that I have to send to the state every couple of years is what does transition planning look like on the IEP. So the first one for this is really looking at ultimately what are we doing to support our students for post-secondary when they exit us at 18 and or 22 to get them ready to be in the workforce, go to college, and what are their goals. So we're doing a lot of future planning with them, and it has to be explicitly stated on the IEP. So our teachers did a great job. They joined some professional learning development within the district, and then also at BCSD. We're having a lot of conversations determining truly what are our goals for our students, and then what is it that we need to make sure are on the IEP to support our students to get to that point. So an example of this might be that instead of an IEP stating that the student just wants to be employed, that's their ultimate goal, the state wants us to be more specific. So what does that mean for them? What type of field do they want? So instead we're switching it to, if a student says that they want to work in the music industry, we're making sure that they're also taking music classes and that that's aligned on their schedules, because we don't want to say, some of our students will say, I want to be a YouTuber is one of their favorites right now. And we say, is that realistic? Maybe, maybe not, right? But what class could you take? Could you take a tech class right now? Could you go to BCSD and take one of the classes over there to get you ready to understand computers and all of those pieces? So we want them to have big goals, but we also try and bring it realistic, and then what do they need to do to accomplish that goal? And then last year, our Special Olympics event was great. I don't think I stopped smiling and just interacting with all the families, the students. They really did a great job last year. We're continuing to partner with the New York State School for the Blind, Genesee Valley BCSD, and then this year Elba and Byron Bergen is actually going to join us, so we keep expanding it. Formerly, when I was in Wayne County, it was huge for us to have Special Olympics. We met as a whole region, so we're actually, us as Batavia and the New York State School for the Blind, and then Avon, so we have 2 different regions, are trying to get it so that because we are far apart as a region, right? So Avon has a cohort, and then we're trying to expand our cohort so we can keep going. The director from Avon and I both work together in Wayne County, so we're both like, okay, we're gonna do this. So this is the date and the time. We do have a rain date, which I can share with Mr. Smith to share with you, but hopefully by June 4th, we're over this snow, rain, all of it, and that it's a great day, so please come. It's just so much joy to watch them, and they had a wonderful time. We're continuing to have our middle school and high school students. Our goal eventually is to expand it all the way down, but for this year, with adding more schools, we're trying to just expand slowly as we go. All right, and then our goals, ongoing focus is that we, like I said before, really making sure that we're following what's least restrictive. I want to make sure that when I have to meet in a targeted skills group that I can identify and justify why we're over certain percentages. So I want to make sure that we have a great system in place. Allie has helped me this year make, similar to the one document that I gave you, of truly looking at students' data before we're making a jump from a general education classroom to a self-contained classroom. So we have some other tools that we're implementing for moving into next year. We'll continue to work around New York State alternative assessments using protocols and procedures, working in our task forces and our professional learning teams. We want to continue to use our, expand our continuum so our students are getting what they need. And then again, working on those IEP compliance and making sure that we're writing quality IEPs. All right, do you have any questions for us?
I do.
Yeah.
How do you keep the goal of 15%
Yeah.
at 15%? Do you obviously have the committees and you
Yeah.
must declassify some students in
Yes.
certain areas?
Yes.
And how did the state come to 15%?
Yeah, so we want to make sure that our students are getting the multi-tiered system of supports, that they're in the least restrictive environment, and that they have access to their general education curriculum, whether it's a special education student or not. So when you think of, and I think you've all done work on multi-tiered system and that triangle visual, our special education student should be in that top small percentage piece, and that we should be seeing. So if we start to see that 15% is growing, that's an indicator to me that then talk to Dr. Corey of something's happening at that tier 1 general curriculum that we're missing, and we need to fix that there, because it doesn't mean that all of our students need specialized instruction. It means we're missing something in the general ed. But it's always a moving target, because then there's sometimes where there's a student who comes in and we say, ooh, that student is nonverbal, behavioral, aggressive. We got to do something to support that student, and we can't follow that strict process of least restrictive. So it's a constant like give and take of, okay, if I classify this one student, that might put us over. They truly need it. Does this student need it, or is it like a deeper concern of tier 1 and making sure we're using tier 1? So it's a constant, we have lots of Post-its in our office and lots of like, if this, then this, and how do we make sure we're declassing at the right times and not declassing too early for students. And then you always have your cohort of graduating seniors that help with that number too. So if we have 20 of them leaving, that means I have essentially 20 other spots to keep us at 15%. Not that I always want to fill those.
But what do you do if a family, because you did mention how transient some
Yeah.
families happen, and they bring in a family full of students that need extra help?
Yeah.
What
that's-
happens then?
So we have to do exactly what's on their IEP, or the regs say, or as close to it. So sometimes what we see is other districts offer like a 15-1 instead of a 12, and it's just a different ratio of student. So I'll call the parent, or Allie will call the parent and say, this is what we have in Batavia, and we have a conversation saying, okay, that may still impact our number overall, but then that's data that I use to the state to then say, we've got this number of students who've enrolled, who have IEPs, and that's why our number has gone up. And if we do end up in those targeted skills groups, then we're just saying, this is why our data looks like this, and we get to the root cause of it, and how do we support the students. I mean, ultimately, sometimes we're gonna go over 15%, especially with seeing the need in the region going up to 15% across everywhere. There's other districts near us who have 16 to 18%. So it's a lot of work that we're doing as a region to talk about that too, of how do we support our students.
Is there any repercussion from the state if we do go above 15? Like, I guess, yes, they're saying, hey, don't have more than 15%,
Yeah.
but if that's something that, in theory, you have all those kids and they aren't unclassifiable or removable,
Right.
what does one do at that point?
Yeah, so that's when we have those targeted skills groups that come in from the BOCES group who has that contract with the state, that we then have to go through some sort of process. So the one that we're doing with the New York State Alternative Assessment one is probably, there's multiple phases. So the first one is our targeted skills group for literacy. We go to BOCES, we do some PD. The next phase is that they come to us and we look at our actual systems and supports, and that's what we're doing with New York State Alternative Assessments. The next is then the state does a compliance review with us. And so we don't want to get to that point, but if we had to, I would be able to say confidently, we have done what we need to do. We're over 18%, and yes, this is accurate and why we need this. So it's having those checks and balances, having those forms that we've created to
Just to be able
say,
to defend it.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah. It is a big balance though.
Yeah. Well, I guess I look at it as I don't ever want to see somebody fall through the cracks and say, well, because we need to hit this number, we're going to declassify this child,
Yeah.
when they really shouldn't be,
Right.
because then we
Yeah.
have failed that one,
Yeah.
just to save another one, and I just don't.
Absolutely,
I don't want to see
yeah.
some kid fail because we made the decision that they shouldn't be classified.
Yeah, so I'm involved in some of these conversations too, and not once in my whole career. You know, I know what you're asking, and I know why you're asking it, but we would never want to, I would never allow that to happen, which is going to declassify this kid because we're afraid
Yeah.
of being at
Or
15,
because it's the
20%.
bubble kids that you worry
Yeah,
about.
so
Is
that-
that,
I mean-
like, just
I mean-
because they're on the bubble, oh, they can be declassified. I hate to see that happen to
Yeah.
a kid fall,
Recognize-
because
yeah,
there's no reason for that.
I recognize the rationale for it, but I would never want that to be the reason for us to not,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. The other thing too, if they are declassified, they have a declassification plan, so we still monitor them too, and if we see that they still need that level of support, or like, oh, that kid's really not doing well, we come back together and say, okay, we need to look at reclassification for that student.
Have we had that happen where we declassified and had to reclassify?
No, the only time I've ever had it happen is if the student had, the classification of speech or language impairment and no longer needed speech,
Yeah,
but
that-
needed like learning disability instead. So now we're going through the multi-tiered system of supports to prove that that student has a learning disability and that it's not lack of potential instruction, things like that. So it's looking then, you can't just move one classification to the other because we think they fit that. It's we have to show due diligence that they actually meet that criteria. So that's the only time we've had to say you declass from speech, but now we're looking at learning disability for you. Yeah. Other questions?
Is that how you come up with whether or not they get a certificate or a diploma too, just based on all this, all the classification, and you guys know all that behind the scenes work? And how do parents, are they hoping that they transition into a diploma? Like, how does
Yeah.
that work?
I personally have really honest conversations with the families because I want them to fully aware what that means, the difference. So it's only our students who have the New York State Alternative Assessment that can get a certificate versus a diploma. There's lots of other ways we can get a student to get a diploma. The most intensive way is if we do a superintendent's determination. So I say to Mr. Smith, the student has sat for this Regents 4 times. They've improved each time. We look at their other Regent scores. The formula shows us we've seen rate of improvement, and he can sign off on that. That's a diploma. Student can go out, typical high school diploma, we're good. The certificate, though, is truly a certificate saying you have employability skills that we have taught you in a work-based learning environment. And so when I talk to parents about that in 3rd grade to 8th grade, really, we talk about this could change anytime, but when we get to 9th grade, that's kind of when we have to make that final almost decision. I say that almost because they could recoup some skills from 9th to 10th grade and then not be credit deficient. So it's this big formula back and forth, but we also want to be very transparent with the parents of what's the difference between a certificate, because a lot of jobs will look at that and say you don't have a high school diploma. So that's where we're giving them all of those resources and hoping that they ask all the questions. We give them everything, we tell them all the information, but then we constantly bring it up every year to make sure that they feel fully aware of the decisions too, because it impacts them. Yeah.
So I was at Robert Morris and just saw that first wing in action. It was phenomenal. So I just want to say thank you for the investment you guys are making into our community and these kids that have these challenges. It was, for me, I said it a few times already, it was emotional. Just to see your teachers doing such a phenomenal job with these kids.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate all of your support with that too, because it hasn't gone unnoticed of how difficult it has been with our preschool programs too, of always looking at student need versus cost, because that's the reality too. and making sure that we're meeting our students' needs, but also being fiscally responsible. So I've appreciated all of your support and want to keep making sure that we're opening communication between that and making sure that you're fully aware too, so that we can continue what we need for our students.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Kelly, because that leads right into my question.
Yeah.
And thank you for this update, because it really does give us a lot of information within your department that, you know, we don't see on a regular basis being on the board. Just kind of comparing your two charts here on 6 and 7 for what we have currently this year to next year.
Yeah.
Am I reading this right, that we are eliminating a full day of a 12-1-1 for
Yes.
next year? And if we are, how and why, and how are we servicing those kids that were in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that group has all year kind of run less than the 12 maximum that we can have. We've operated at the beginning of the year with 3 to 4 students, which then the cost of that is pretty significant. So what we're able to do for next year is, instead of having 2 full-day classrooms of 12s, we're actually going to change one of the 6-1-1 classrooms as a full day into 2 half-days. So we'll be able to operate a full-day 6-1-1, a half-day 6-1-1, and then the other counterpart will be another 12, so we still can service the same number of students. It'll be a less time, but it also meets the early intervention need that we see coming in. And I think we've done this every year too, where we kind of reconfigure what preschool looks like based on what we're getting from early intervention to make sure we're meeting those needs. When we started the program, we had integrated classrooms, half-day integrated, full-day integrated. So every year we've kind of shifted based on what we see coming in so that we can meet all of their needs coming in. So we'll have, instead of the full-day 12-1-1, that position was eliminated. We're moving that teacher to the K-1 self-contained 8-1-3 classroom. And then we're reallocating one of those full-day teachers into having 2 half-day classrooms.
So the 8-1-3 for kindergarten, I'm showing an 8-1-2.
Yes, sorry, 8-1-2.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
But even looking at Jackson this year, isn't there an additional 6-1-2 room that I don't see?
Yeah, that's going to be, so that cohort is going to move back to Robert Morris. They'll get the incoming kindergarten students, and then some of our first graders will go back to Robert Morris for a year to be a multi-age room, and we're changing that room from the 6-1-2 to the 8-1-2. So it's moving that physical classroom over to Robert Morris instead of at Jackson.
Okay.
Would that be half day or full day?
Full day.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you all for your opportunity and for being able to speak.
All right. Next up, we have Mr. Lang for our final draft budget update. Mr. Lang, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. All right, hopefully last presentation on budget this year, except for the budget hearing. So this is going to be the final draft of the budget, and it'll be a summary of the budget. You do have an updated budget summary in board docs as well that we sent earlier this week. So again, timeline-wise, today we're going to complete the review of the finalized budget as well as adopt the budget. It's one of the tasks of the board to obviously adopt the general fund budget for next year, as well as there'll be another motion on your agenda to approve the property tax report card. That's something that we have to send into the state every year, so that's also on the agenda for approval tonight. By May 4th, we'll have the budget document available for public review. That's all the budget documents that are required by education law. And we'll have that all together and sent to each building for public review as needed. And then finally, on the 11th, we'll have a budget hearing. It's going to be here at 6 o'clock. And then finally, 19th is going to be the date for the budget vote at the Board of Education. So on the expenditure side, or on the revenue side of the budget, Not much has changed since the last draft, except for the appropriated fund balance and reserves. That's as a result of just finalizing and overall finalization of the expenditure side of the budget. But as you can see, state sources, we're anticipating about a 5.4% increase in state aid. Real property taxes, again, $415,817 increase, which is exactly 2% over the prior years. And then as you can see, a 23%, almost 24% increase in the amount of appropriated fund balance and reserve that the district is using to balance the budget. So there's two things in there. There's about $2.6 million of appropriated fund balance, and the rest is use of our reserves. We're going to utilize 2 reserves to balance the budget. One of those is the ERS reserve. That's for all the district's employer retirement system contribution, and then TRS reserve. That's the teacher's retirement system. And then all other revenue, we're looking at a slight decrease, just an adjustment, especially based on interest earnings. We have seen those decrease over the years, so we've had to make adjustments in that area as well. Overall, 4.48% increase in revenue, which is a $2,833,767 increase. So in regards to the tax levy, this is a chart that shows the estimated impact of the tax levy increase. So again, this is based on a $21,206,687 tax levy, which is an increase of $415,817. That's exactly a 2% increase. As we've gone over before, again, the impact based on my estimated assessments. Again, I am using last year's assessments just so that we can see the real impact, the apples to apples impact. Although, as we know, as assessments increase, the tax rate will decrease. So if the assessment increases, we would anticipate that this tax rate would decrease. But just to show the actual impact and looking at the prior year's assessments, we're looking at, for a home valued at $100,000, it's about a $33.40 increase. And then for a home valued at around $200,000 would be about a $66 increase in taxes.
We just did get all reassessed.
Yeah.
So this will go down.
The tax rate will most likely go down based on what we have for initial assessments. But again, this does show the true impact of the tax levy increase. This is just a chart that shows the revenue sources. Again, this just highlights the main revenue source the district receives, the 2 main revenue sources the district receives: state aid, which is a little over $37 million, and then property taxes, which is a little over $21 million. On the expenditure side of the budget, again, we've gone over a lot of these areas before, but just to kind of highlight some of the main areas. Employee benefits, you see that large increase in employee benefits. As we've talked about before, we've had a 30% increase in health insurance costs and health insurance rates for next year, so that's the large driver of this year's budget, as well as the employee benefits portion. Debt service, we're showing an increase of 34%, but again, that's offset by the amount of building aid we're receiving. So the additional state sources revenue covers the building aid, so there's no impact, or the debt service, so there's no additional tax impact. Interfund transfer, we have a reduction there, but the interfund transfer is for our $100,000 annual capital outlay project, as well as our local support, the unaided portion of the district's 4408 or summer school program, special ed summer school program that we're required to pay for. And the $100,000 capital outlay project for next year, we're looking at replacing some flooring in Jackson. There's an old section of tile flooring, and we're looking at trying to replace that with more of a resilient flooring. So that's the project. On the agenda tonight, you'll see a seeker resolution as well as a proposal from our architects for the design of that project. So those are on the agenda tonight as well. These are just a couple graphs now showing the breakdown of the major components of the budget. Over 56% of the district's budget is directly related to instruction. Let's see, we have 6% for transportation. A large percentage, again, these two are the largest percentages. Employee benefits and instruction are probably the two largest pieces of our budget. So instruction includes all teaching salaries, portion of all supplies, materials, equipment related to instruction. So in the component analysis, we can see that 76.6% of the district's budget are directly impacting program, and then 13.1% are capital. So that's all the operational side of things like buildings and grounds, facilities, debt service, all that stuff. And then administrative, this is anything to do with central office, principals, principal's office, those types of things. So as you can see on the chart, 10.3% is administrative, 13.1 is capital, but the lion's share, 76.6 is directly related to program instruction. So just the final summary here, again, the general fund budget for the 26-27 school year is being proposed at $66,143,875. That's an increase of a little over $2.8 million, or 4.48% from the prior year. The tax levy to support that budget is $21,206,687. That is a 2% increase, or $415,000 over the prior year's tax levy. Again, that is below the maximum allowable tax cap. As we mentioned before, the tax cap was calculated right around 2.8% for this year. So I'm going out at 2% is lower than that. On the ballot this year, again, proposition number 1 will be the general fund budget, so that'll be the first proposition on the ballot. And then the second proposition will be 2 Board of Education members will be voted on. So there'll be a list of folks that are running for Board of Education, and select 2. That's going to be for a term of between 7/1/26 and 6/30/29, 3-year term. Some changes I want to kind of go over, and we will be notifying social media, and we'll have some media releases regarding this. Budget hearing will be May 11th at 6 p.m. at the high school conference room. The budget vote will be the 19th. One change this year is that the hours will be from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. In prior years, it's been 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., but this year the polls will close at 8 p.m. And then as a result of the ongoing capital project, we've had to reconfigure some of our voting areas. So Election District 1 will now be at John Kennedy Intermediate School. Election District 1 was at Robert Morris, but because of the amount of construction going on there, anyone who used to vote or in prior years voted at Robert Morris will be voting at John Kennedy for this election, for this year budget vote. Election District number 2 will remain at the high school, so anyone south of Main Street, Route 5, will be voting still at the high school. There's no change to that. All right, any questions?
No, I don't do yours.
Not necessarily towards your budget, more to the board. Previously, for board candidates, we did in the past, when I first got on, we did a meet the candidate, or kind of a question and answer for any board candidates that were running for this year. Is that something you guys are interested in doing again this year, to have a forum, be open to the public? We'll have a mediator asking a couple questions for the candidates.
How many do we have on?
We'll know, what's the deadline, Carla?
Board, next Wednesday.
4 have picked up packets, and
1 returned, 1 today.
one's returned 1 today so far, so.
We'll know by, is it Tuesday or Wednesday next week?
Wednesday, by 5 o'clock.
Okay. So I like participating in it myself. It was I think, were you in that one, or was it prior to me?
No, I
That was the last one.
didn't. I don't think I did.
No.
If that's,
I think it would be good. I
No,
think it's good for the
we
public
did
to
one.
see who's running and learn a little bit about them as well.
so if we did that, if the board's interested in that, I would recommend that I could contact a couple, perhaps like a media person to like help us facilitate, to have something neutral, I have a couple people in mind who I think could do it. But Barno, I have to ask, but it might be nice to have that opportunity.
People turning in the packets, are they aware that they're not going to do this?
I mentioned it as a possibility to one candidate today.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't know what it was when I first ran for it. I showed up. I think I was actually late for it. But it was a great opportunity to listen and talk, to hear all the candidates. So if you guys are open for it, I think it'll be good for the community who's interested. Come in, meet the candidates, hear what they are running for.
Yeah, I think we'll be more informed, right?
Yep.
So they can.
So, if Mr. Smith can look at a couple potential people, have him select a date, send it out, what do you got here? It's on the 19th, so I was, we can do it, we got a calendar around there.
I would suggest.
Just like a week before, just beforehand. Sounds good. Perfect, thank you guys. Andy, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we have a board meeting on May 11th, so. We can even do it. Yeah.
All right, Eli. Big presentations for you to follow, and I'm looking at yours now. It looks like I stole your first point on yours.
Yeah.
With my good news report.
Anyway, I'll still say it again.
All right, perfect.
Miss Batavia was held on March 27th and set a record for the highest amount raised in its 13th year, raising $5,870. It also surpassed $50,000 in total. Noah Richmond was crowned Miss Batavia with Maggio Buchholz and Dominic South all finishing second and third respectively. Evening of Batavia High School's Jazz Ensemble and Jazz Combo will be participating in the Evening of Jazz on Saturday the 25th at 6 p.m. at the City Church. Yeah, right. City Church Generation Center in Batavia. The tickets are $10 and available at the door. Other groups performing are the Fairport Jazz Ensemble, the Alexander Jazz Experience, and the Finger Lakes Jazz Ensemble. The Rotary Baseball Tournament will be held Saturday, May 2nd, with JV games being held at Williams Park and varsity games being held at Dwyer Stadium. The participating teams include Batavia, Attica, Notre Dame, and Oakfield, Alabama. The Stars of Tomorrow Gala is on May 8th and will feature a performance by the cast of BHS's production of Anastasia in Rochester. And then for those interested, the Batavia Class of 2026 Instagram page is posting senior college decisions. I'd recommend checking it out and seeing where members of our graduating class will be next year.
The decision day is
May 1st.
May 1st. And that's when you tour around all the schools.
Excellent. Eli, thank you, sir.
Yep.
I'll make sure I check my report first before I announce anything next month. All right, so now we have Mr. Smith with our superintendent's report.
Thank you. I have a couple items. First of all, going back to our capital project, BCSD Reimagined, the board and I went on a tour of Robert Morris this evening before the board meeting. A couple of business items. I've been working with the Teachers Association to determine staffing reassignments. We have grades moving around, so those are in the process of being set as we speak. Robert Morris classrooms will be ready for kindergarten in June. We're not going to move until September, but the classrooms are on track to be done. Myself and our team will come to the middle school faculty meeting in June to update the middle school on their part of the project. Phase 3, as you can see out the window, is well underway with the turf construction. As the board saw this evening, this afternoon, Robert Morris, the second half is under construction. And the big save the date, the playground ribbon cutting ceremony will be on May 14th at 10 a.m. I'm working with Jessica Corzelis and her team on that, as well as our construction partner. So that's exciting, moving right along. Moving into the instructional realm, Dr. Muhammad will be here. He's our speaker we have. We're still working with him. Basically what that slide mentions that he's engaging in a process with our BHS and BMS faculty and staff. We spent time in the district last month interviewing teachers from different levels of experience. He's looking at assessment data, test data, and then I think next week he's meeting with the teams, Molly.
Yep,
So
virtually.
Molly's been involved with that a bit more than I have. Anything else you want to add to that, Molly?
He did a comprehensive analysis of each school, and everybody's excited and pleased to hear what he would have to offer them. He walked around and looked at artifacts in the hallways as part of it, and all, like looking at data and talking to teachers.
So we're going to meet with them next week with the teacher teams from the high school and the middle school. Looking forward to that for improvement opportunities and also strengths in each of our in those schools. End of the year calendar is really exciting to talk about. The board, I have this for your approval later on tonight, but just to clarify so the public knows that May 22nd will become a holiday. We weren't able to do that last year because of the weather, but we're happy to do it this year. June 24th, that Wednesday would be early release. June 25th would be early release, and the last day of school. And then the 26th would be the last day for our teachers and our aides. And this would give time for the moves that have to happen for Chad Bliss and his team and our principals, our teachers and aides to get reassigned in the new classrooms, and the calendar does allow for this, and we're compliant with state ed expectations. So pending no questions, I'd like the board to consider that when we get to that in the agenda. A teacher appreciation event will be where lots of things happening, but on Thursday, May 7th, we sent you invites and emails. The board, please sign up if you can to come to one of our schools to celebrate teacher appreciation. We'll have ice cream there, and we'll have the staff there. So that's been sent to you. Looking forward to that. That week, and each school has some of their own activities planned as well. So
You'll be there for that event.
not turn on ice cream yet. As I just want to compliment our travel club again. I wish I was on the trip, but I had fun posting pictures. I got pictures from every country. So I just want to recognize the great job that our students did. I knew a lot of the kids on the trip. We had several teachers there, and Mrs. Skinner did an exceptional job, and not only in building enthusiasm, but making the trip go so smooth and successful. It is nerve-wracking as superintendent to have kids so far away, but it was really well done, and the feedback I got from kids is a great trip. So looking forward to the next journey. It's our third or fourth year doing it. So we have and appreciate the board's support on behalf of our students. A Music in Our Schools concert was held last month. It was a great event to participate in. We recognized numerous groups from each of the schools. You can see some students up there. I think Eli participated in it as well, so that was a nice event. Miss Batavia, Eli talked about that again. I want to recognize our contestants, our coaches, our advisors, our public support that we received. It was a great night. All the students did a great job. If you didn't see Eli, his talent was, what was your talent, Eli? Tell us about your talent.
Played the Imperial March through the auditorium.
On what?
So, on the sousaphone.
On the sousaphone and a band uniform, so he did a nice job with that. So that was a fun event we had. I think we're going to have the press release this week as far as a photo being in there of the up for second and third place. But honestly, it was a great event, and they all did a great job. This is really exciting. Gus Crawford, for the first time in the history of Batavia Theater, Gus has been selected as one of the nominees, not to go to New York City, but to be selected as a possibility to go to New York City. So they selected 40 students from the Rochester region, and Gus was one. I found this out Saturday morning at the track meet. I was thrilled. It's kind of like having the opportunity to go to states. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that. He hasn't gone yet, but his chances have increased by being one of the 40 to participate. So we're excited for Gus. Eli mentioned when the Star was Friday, May 8th.
Yep.
Yeah, so he'll be one of the 40 competing for the opportunity to compete in the Jimmy Awards on Broadway in New York City in June. So
Does one get chosen out of 40?
I think more than one. I'm not sure. It's not a lot. I would have to ask Karen for sure. Maybe one or two. I'm not sure. You know Eli? Okay. No. For anybody else that would know him. So I can find out though. But we just want to recognize Gus and Karen and her staff for the exceptional job with that. Athletic Hall of Fame nominations are due at the end of April, so please get those in to Mr. Reed. Looking forward to that event in the fall on homecoming time. And very exciting, I'm going to be at Terry Hills, I think tomorrow night. We're going to recognize Susan Woodruff, who received the Youth Worker of the Year Award from the Genesee County Youth Bureau, and Devin Polk has received one of the volunteer recognitions. And if you know Devin, he's a lot like Eli, he's everywhere. He's involved in athletics, music, sports, just a really good kid. He's a student leader. So looking forward to recognizing Devin and Susan at the event tomorrow night at Terry Hills. And upcoming events for the board, I mentioned this, some of these things already, the teacher appreciation celebrations, jazz night on Saturday. The first week of May, we have our Rotary baseball tournament at Dwyer Stadium, the track invite at Vendetta, then Robert Morris on May 14th at 10 a.m. So, any questions?
Since some of us missed Mr. Batavian, I think we should have Eli do his talent for us at his last meeting here.
I don't know about that.
I think it's a great idea.
Can we vote on that?
They want to vote on that.
And on that note, he's actually. Thanks, Eli. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
All right, so next up, we have consent grouping. We need a motion to approve the grouping of consent items F through M. Do I have a motion? Mr. Ches, do I have a second?
Second.
Corinne, any discussion? All in favor? All right. That'll bring us to our old business, which, with our presentation from Mr. Lang, we need to have a motion to approve our 26-27 budget approval. Do I have a motion? Motion. By Dan. Do I have a second? Second. By Chez. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Next up is part of Mr. Smith's presentation. It is, we need a motion to approve the 25-26 BCSD school calendar updated. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Or first, I'm sorry, first was Corinne, second was Jen. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And last up is an approval for employee holiday schedules. And this will be for the 12-month employees and the 10-month employees. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Jen, do I have a second?
Second.
By Sam. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Brings us down to our new business. And that's what also Mr. Lang mentioned during his presentation. We need a motion to approve the property tax report card and real property tax exemption reports. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Jen, do I have a second? Second. By Chez, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is our non-public private school transportation request for the 26-27 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Allison, do I have a second?
Second.
By Corinne, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving right along to our 26-27 GB BOCES annual meeting notice, administrative budget, and board member vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Dan, do I have a second?
Second.
By Jen, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
You missed it. Yeah, you missed one.
What's that?
You missed the C3.
Oh, sorry. Let's go back up. I blame Mr. Smith.
Of course.
He's moving things on my agenda. So we're gonna go back up to 26-27 capital outlay project Secra. Do I have a motion? Chez, do I have a second?
Second.
Allison, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, our last one, as long as Mr. Smith doesn't move anything else on me. We need a motion for policy number 5323, reimbursement for meals and refreshments. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Allison, do I have a second?
Second.
Chez? Dan, I'm sorry. I'm losing it over here. Any discussion?
Why are we changing it?
We had our attorney look at our last policy, and it's a little bit more current with current practices. Ches and Barb were part of the team, and I think that the other policy didn't have enough coverage for us, so it gives us more flexibility to make some decisions with respect to staff development, meetings, that type of thing. Molly, anything else other than that?
This brings clarity to everybody around what's allowed and what's not. Yeah, it's just, I just figured I was honest.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we do have our administrative reports from curriculum and instruction and the business office, and our other reports listed on our website, so please. Yep.
If you look at number 2 from GCC, so always worth noting to the board, we do have a good partnership with GCC, and the memo I received from them just indicates the savings that our students have received over this past year for participating in ACE. It lists the course there, lists the savings, so just is worth noting that we're proud of this partnership, and I want the board to be aware of that as with GCC. So thanks, John.
All right. Do we have any board goal updates?
I toured JK last week. Went into 2 different classrooms. Mrs. Brown, I believe, and Mrs. Livergood. Saw a foundations lesson. It's pretty cool. Got to walk around. Enjoyed it. Kind of saw where the data is coming from.
All right. Any other board member comments or other reports? I think it was great prior to taking a tour through Robert Morris before the meeting, seeing all the updates there. I do want to thank the staff there as our construction project went along and the flexibility that they've had. Jason and the leadership team for adding an extra day for the transition to move things around. The school looks great. I think the kids, that playground is amazing. Looking forward to the ribbon cutting for that. We're moving right along with this capital project. The athletic fields, I think every single building is moving on. Our buildings and grounds, the construction team is keeping us up to date on a regular basis, and it seems like everything's going real smooth with that. So that's great to see. Anyone else have anything else?
I had a question. Somewhere after reading the agenda for this evening, one of the things that isn't on the dates is the prom. I assume
June
you're having one.
19th.
Yeah.
June 19th.
And where is it being held this year? I wasn't familiar with where it's being held.
Well, I'm a parent of a senior as well, and I should know.
That's why I asked it.
You could ask my wife.
Isn't it on?
I can't recall, but
deferred?
my notes on it, I know it's on June 19th.
Rough house at the Smith household.
Rough night. It's Friday, June 19th. I'm
It's
pretty
in
sure of that.
off like a Wacka Trail, I believe. Yes,
Yeah.
Estates something, right?
Woodsmith is.
Woodsmith
Yes,
Estates.
that's
Yeah.
what I did. Is that where that is?
Yeah. They've used that venue for
Yeah.
last several years.
Okay.
Yep.
It was there a couple days ago.
I didn't recognize.
I know she has a dress, I know that.
Don't give the secrets out.
Yeah, it is Friday, June 19th. I know
Okay.
that, so.
All right. And you have a date for the graduation is?
Graduation would be the last Friday in June, whatever day that is, but it's the last Friday in June at the stadium at Vendetta. If it rains, it'll be the next morning.
What time?
7. Yeah, we had it at 8 last year because I had delayed it by an hour so the rain. So the normal start time is 7 p.m.
Okay, and if it
push-
rains out, what time is it Saturday morning?
10 a.m.
I think Carol sent an email if the board can attend. It'd be great to have everyone there. I know it's out to all the teachers. It'd be great to see as many teachers as possible that we can get as part of that celebration for the students.
Yeah, thank you, I agree.
Well, the road request came out a long time ago.
Yes.
Yes, it did come out.
All right. So we need a motion to go into executive session. And the call for executive session will be 4, move to executive session to discuss matters relating to the collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, and for the medical, financial credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Jen, second. Dan, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And we will not be coming back into public session.
Correct.
So, thank you very